What I know to be true about the history of the Wing Chun system is that the roots are definitely feminine. There are many stories out there, and I truly appreciate the story that's been passed down to me, the history that's been passed down to me by Seu Dan and Inosanto. The story takes us all the way back to the Qing dynasty when the Hans and the Manchurians were continuously fighting, and you would find the Shaolin temples raided, burned down. And it was at this time where a Buddhist nun, or an abbess, by the name of Nung Moi, actually escaped and took her art and passed it down to a young female by the name of Wing Chun. She was her prized pupil. Wing Chun eventually got married, and you can trace the roots of the lineage of the art, starting with Wing Chun all the way down to Bruce Lee and now Seu Dan and Inosanto. The three forms of Wing Chun. So the first idea, the little idea, Silam Tao, is kind of the mother of the second and the third. What you find in that first application, in that first form, is balance, symmetry, parallel. You start to learn the foundation of the art, so you start seeing the need to drive energy through the elbow. You find this paramount theme of the center line. So that's the kind of the basis of the Silam Tao idea. The next one is the searching for the bridge. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It shows how one starts to close the gap between their opponent. In the first one, you see primarily only hand movements. The second one, you start seeing the integration of the leg work, the footwork. And lastly, the third one, which is called Buji, which is defined because you will start seeing a lot of open hands. Dart fingers is what Buji actually means. You'll start seeing, and I love this saying, it's the extension of the soul. You see a marriage between the upper body and the lower body, and how the form really extends itself to a very explosive, powerful, and effective martial art.
I think Wing Chun, if you're a smaller statured person, I think is very effective. It was developed by a female. So their idea was to use your strength not from just your upper body, but to use your whole body, to be grounded, to use the energy from the ground and synchronize all your joints and muscles and to explode into a very powerful method of fighting. So I think size is not necessarily a must in all this, but I think if you understand the principles of Wing Chun, that you can be a great adversary against somebody that's much bigger and stronger.
Lobs out. Again. Again.
The concept of dissolving in the Wing Chun system has to do with energy coming from your opponent, or also the energy coming from within. There are different types of techniques that will utilize your opponent's energy, and you're able to redirect it. And so when you're talking about dissolving their energy and then redirecting your energy in a more productive or more efficient manner.
Deflection of energy in Wing Chun system is opposed to some traditional martial arts. Rather than blocking the strikes, which is force against force, or force hitting from the sideway. But deflecting the angle of the force, it's cutting the angle and go straighter, not really going against the force coming towards you. But then again, you can cut through it, and then you can also hit and defend at the same time.
Wing Chun can be an effective tool against a larger attacker by females by the use of the Buji. The Buji is the dart fingers. These are the fingers to the eyes or to the throat. And this is a great equalizer when a woman's under attack. I think females today should not overlook the martial art of Wing Chun in terms of self-defense and self-preservation. Their use of center line really speaks to the need to equalize any attack. You have your eye gouges, you have your soft tissue points through your throat, through your nose, you have the solar plexus and the groin. So it easily translates to what you find today in any modern self-defense class. What I like about Wing Chun that feeds into the ideology of women is that it really relies on sensitivity, and women innately are feeling creatures. And so a lot of the techniques or the fundamentals of this art is rooted in something that's already very innate for women. Knowing that Ning Moy, a female, created a martial art specifically just for female leaves me with two words. I feel empowered and I feel inspired. It's the same thing as how most females would feel today if they walked into any other male-dominated arena, whether it be another martial art academy, school, or a competitive sport athlete walking into another sport. And when we see females doing the exercises or the techniques with such ability, we typically subconsciously or consciously will always walk away saying, oh, I could do that. And so that's what Ning Moy did for females, and what she continuously does for females is she hires the bar. We walk away thinking, I could do better, I could do more. I absolutely feel that women time and time again have been overlooked, not only especially in martial arts. I think that history is basically patriarchal. Most of the world's countries are patriarchal, and so a sense of women's contributions will always be lost. However, in some societies, especially in some Southeast Asian martial arts, where inwardly they're matriarchal, you'll see women climb and become heroes for their people. So I think as we progress, you'll see this gap slowly closing, and women will be continuously highlighted or illuminated more by their peers. Some of the core basics that you find in Wing Chun that are in JKD are, if I can just list a few, the simultaneous offense and defense. You'll find sensitivity drills to enhance tactile responses. You'll find economy of motion, the need for relaxation, for power and speed.
Well, I think Bruce made the journey from Wing Chun to JKD because he felt that the traditional Wing Chun system, although it was very, very good, that there were certain things lacking that needed to be improved upon. So he sort of embraced, as a basis, 27 different other martial arts styles to encompass the JKD concepts and use that as the principles to expand upon.
You can use the art of Wing Chun to bridge fighting systems by utilizing trapping to bridge the gap between you and opponent, following up with any different other strike found in any other system, followed by chokes, sweeps, locks. Initially, you can integrate any system with Wing Chun. This is an example of using Wing Chun to bridge multiple fighting systems. This example here is going to start with Wing Chun trapping. Then it's going to lead into Western boxing, typical striking. Then it's going to follow up with the knee that you can find again in multiple arts. You're going to find your choke here. Again, several arts around the world have this. Another knee. I'm going to take it to a throw. Specifically, this one's coming from Indonesia. Controlling with my knees, I'm going to stomp the face using a spinning arm bar here. I'm going to grab the groin, coming back, bridging through my hips, and breaking the arm of my opponent.
Bruce Lee's idea of encompassing boxing and incorporating it within Jeet Kune Do was very much ahead of his time. He used the understanding of boxing. He switched it from a left lead to a right lead, if that was your stronger side, and used the principles of Wing Chun. When you boxed, you learn how to cut into an opponent's offensive moves.
Wing Chun has definitely contributed to JKD's explosiveness, the speed, the efficiency. In terms of being the most perfect weapon, I can't speak to that, but it's definitely lent itself to be what JKD is today, and as it continuously evolves and changes.
I think Bruce's idea of changing the very traditional Wing Chun method to evolve it into Jeet Kune Do. The thought was basically that Wing Chun was a great art. He loved Wing Chun, but I think he felt that in certain instances that it lacked certain applicable ideas to be able to use it in any circumstance.
Box up.
Difference between traditional Wing Chun Mokjong form and Jeet Kune Do Mokjong form. We call it Junfan Wing Chun form because it's Bruce Lee's way of doing traditional Wing Chun Mokjong form. And slightly different. I studied or I've seen a few other people doing different styles or different system of Wing Chun Mokjong form, and everybody his form is a little bit different, but the same kind of footwork and same techniques used. Same techniques are used. And Jeet Kune Do Mokjong form is almost like we're doing the trappings with the partners. But then again, if you don't have a partner, you can't practice with it. You can probably shadow box it. But if you have a Wing Chun dummy, you can apply the same techniques into the Wing Chun dummy. And so JKD system or JKD sets are a secondary practice way of doing trappings without the partner. This is part of Jeet Kune Do dummy set number 6.
Well, I think Bruce's ideology and his thoughts behind modernizing the Mokjong techniques from traditional Wing Chun was, with Wing Chun, they had the very traditional moves, very straightforward, very squared off movements. And when he put in the JKD techniques to the Mokjong, it was very unorthodox. He was doing combination trapping techniques on there with the right lead and switching leads back and forth and making it more applicable to the fighting methods that he was trying to bring about and evolve to.
Now I'll explain the application. It goes like this. I'll Pak Sao in, he resist, Jiao Sao out, Jiao Sao, hit. Same thing on the second arm, go between the arms. Okay. Third one, low hit. Last one, chop choi kwa choi.
I think with the Wing Chun principles involved in Jeet Kune Do and Jeet Kune Do's idea of always changing and growing and evolving, I think in future generations, the Jeet Kune Do you saw in the late 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, which constantly is changing. I think obviously in the years to come, Jeet Kune Do will be a different animal even more. Not to say that it won't have the foundation that was laid down by Bruce, because it'll always have that. But I think his idea of always constantly changing and making it better will continue on, just like a lot of other things. I mean, in order to stay ahead of the game, you have to always constantly change and evolve. So that was what Bruce's idea was, to not be stuck in a fixed pattern and stay in one idea of fighting, or of defense, self-defense. So I think Jeet Kune Do should change, and it better change and better evolve as we go along. Otherwise, it becomes stagnant, and that's not what Bruce was about.
Seu Dan's philosophy on Wing Chun could be observed by what he's doing today in his academy. One of the examples can be taken from his children's class, Our Little Dragons. Currently today, he's actually teaching Wing Chun principles like the trapping and the wooden dummy forms to our young little dragons. And I think this speaks levels to the importance it plays in our future generations. Another observation that you can find in our academy is that in order to train with Seu Dan in his JKD class, there is a prerequisite of 2 other classes that are grounded in Wing Chun principles along with other techniques. And these 2 classes have to be taken, and then you're recommended to move on to Seu Dan's JKD class.
I saw Yip Man 1 and 2, and I thought that Donnie Yen did a great job. I think there's very good traditional Wing Chun techniques. Obviously there's some techniques in there that aren't traditional Wing Chun, but it's great for cinematic purposes. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought Donnie Yen did a great job. It's obvious that he trained in the system of Wing Chun, and I think it's a tribute to Yip Man and maybe not be totally historically correct and everything, but as far as very following Yip Man's life and being very entertaining, I thought it was a really great film.
Wing Chun, Yip Man.
My impression on Ip Man 1 and 2 are great. I love those movies because Donnie Yen did a great job portraying Ip Man, and I'm sure he learned the Wing Chun for this movie too. And his techniques or skills are awesome and clean. And then, of course, Sammo Hung choreographed it and directed, and it's mostly, I would say 95% of techniques that used in that movie was Wing Chun techniques, and of course some other techniques he used, but it's so true to the art, and I loved it, and they executed everything was well and shot well. I'd like to see a third one if there's if they are making it.
I do love to interject a lot of Wing Chun techniques into a lot of the movies I do, but it's dependent upon the character and what his background is, what's motivating him. If he's a trained fighter, if he's not a trained fighter, generally there's no Wing Chun techniques because it's very sophisticated looking and it's just a look and a feel and a rhythm that is something that only a trained person should be able to do. Some of the films that I've interjected Wing Chun is obviously all the Bourne films. There's some trapping techniques that are there at some point in time during the film. A lot of other films, I just finished a project called Hannah. There's some Wing Chun stuff in there. There's with the Green Hornet, there'll be some Wing Chun techniques in there for obvious reasons. And generally, if the person is supposed to have an expertise in the fighting area, then I'll interject some type of Wing Chun techniques in the project because it is very straightforward. It's very explosive and a great offensive method of fighting. With a lot of choreography I do, I'm obviously influenced by Wing Chun. So here's an example of that with a combination of quick trapping motions with a little bit of boxing, with normal martial arts kicks, knee, popping over with elbow, straight blast, front kick. So if we do it sort of fast, not super fast, but a little bit fast, it comes up, trapping combination, kick, knee, elbow, blast, straight kick. When I started trying to introduce it, people didn't understand how to photograph it properly. They thought that it couldn't be photographed. I think Bruce ran across some of the same problems when he started interjecting it into his projects because a lot of techniques are very fast, and if you don't cover it at the right angle and you don't get the right response from the person who's taking the blows, that it could be somewhat of a blur and not really appreciated for what it could be appreciated for.
When I have a chance to choreograph a fight scene with any movies or film, TVs, Sometime my director or stunt coordinator asked me to use trapping techniques, and I try to make it as natural as possible. It means it fits in the character, it fits in the storyline, because otherwise, if all of a sudden the fight starts happening and all of a sudden guys start doing Wing Chun techniques or trappings, might not be natural. You have to follow the stories and true to the character. A lot of people can just throw swing punches, haymakers, and not ugly push kicks. But if you're not trained martial artist, you can't throw nice clean kicks or nice clean trappings. So it has to fit in the character or storylines.
Here's an example of some choreography with butterfly swords using traditional, non-traditional method of Wing Chun. I do feel that Bruce has introduced Wing Chun through his use of Jeet Kune Do, because of the foundation of Jeet Kune Do being Wing Chun, and also at the time when he first introduced he introduced himself to films with his techniques. It had been a cinematic surprise to everybody of somebody who is not doing the normal Hong Kong style block punch, block punch, block punch techniques, and all of a sudden somebody who came in with a powerful technique and being able to take out opponents in a very quick manner, as opposed to having fights last forever. So I think Bruce understood the idea of what combat was really about, and that most fights don't last very long, and wanted to present that to the general public and show them something different and unique and more realistic to what had been presently being seen by most people in the cinema. I think my favorite films of Bruce was basically all of his films. There's certain things of each film as he evolved, and I think there's certain movements, techniques that I remember from each project. I don't think there's any film that I had seen of Bruce's that I can't say didn't influence me in some way or a manner. And I think that there was something, you could see the evolution of what Bruce was going through, and there was always something you could draw from there. I mean, obviously Enter the Dragon was something that everybody remembers and that he had a little bit more control of. Game of Death, unfortunately, he didn't finish, and Return of the Dragon, there's a lot of principles and understanding of fighting and things that he wanted to present in there too. So I think the earlier films, he was able to interject what he wanted, but not have complete control, and I think later in his career, he was able to have more control over what he was putting on screen, and it's more evident of his favorite moves per se, or his techniques that he was able to put on screen that wasn't influenced by other people in the project. Here's another example of how Wing Chun influences fight choreography with a lot of occupying center line. You'll see straight direct hits and economy of motion with movement, okay? Come up, straight elbow, coming to the straight hit. Hitting block, checking and block, hitting at the same time, coming up to here, coming up, uppercut, breaking the elbow to the head, knee to the head, turning him, breaking the back, dropping him down to his knee, snapping his neck, and a straight hit to the face. My idea of a perfect fighting film, I think, would be to, it's very difficult. I think there's always more to learn and more to show as far as fighting in projects, and I think there's still some other influences. I mean, Jeet Kune Do is obviously very broad, and there's always an avenue that you can take Jeet Kune Do down, and that hasn't been seen before by people on screen. So I think if there is people with different different fighting methods and different styles and different environments. You could interject things that haven't been seen on screen before. If there's, I mean, obviously there's other people who have done fabulous at doing that in different environments. Jackie, Jet Li, some of these people have done a great job in presenting some of that in some of their films. But I don't know if there is a perfect, something that I could say, a perfect example of what I wanted to do. There'd always be something more to show, I think. JKD is definitely a part of my life. It's what I've used in the film projects. It's helped my career. It's helped me. It's been indispensable, and I can't imagine me not using it. And very thankful for the fact that it has been introduced to me and that I've understood its principles.